Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Keyblade Master and welcome to my channel. Last week I kind of got busy with some Kingdom Hearts games that I want to try to get done with their reviews by the end of the month, and I'm also going to be doing a Star Wars project mixed in with them. So I'm been kind of busy playing a lot of games, and I should have been kind of updating on some things that happened. So I want to be making 2 editorial videos in the next few days about stuff that happened the last week that kind of interested me. First, I should talk about Nintendo's new president. We had a bunch of discussions about this a few months ago after Satoru Iwata tragically passed away. He was a young guy, he was only 55, and although he made decisions that I personally question, especially with the Wii U controller, he was very open about a company that's very secretive. He did things like the Nintendo Minutes and the Iwata Asks, and kind of became a celebrity within the company. He was well known for being a gamer and someone who wanted to really kind of innovate in different ways than the competitors. And that's one of the things I both like and hate about Nintendo. I like the fact that they come up with goofy things like the motion controllers, and if it didn't cost so much, a touchscreen controller would have worked okay, but the cost just did not exceed the benefits. So the Wii U is a flop in my mind, unfortunately. He also created the DS. So we need someone who can still keep that about Nintendo. And when a lot of people were saying Miyamoto, I was like, no, Miyamoto would make those decisions worse. I once said putting Miyamoto in charge would be like making Herbert Hoover president. And to understand what I meant by that, if you don't know history, because a lot of times history books nowadays kind of just paint Herbert Hoover as this buffoon who couldn't think himself out of a paper bag. He wasn't. Before he became president, Herbert Hoover was well liked in Washington by both parties. He was a genius. You look at his records in other departments before he became president, all of them ring out tremendous success. You would think this guy would be one of the best presidents ever. His only critic at the time was Calvin Coolidge, who saw his kind of command style when he was in charge of all these projects and thought it wasn't good to put him in charge, and he had several insults when it came to Herbert Hoover too. You might want to take those up. But anyways, Coolidge was found out later right when Herbert Hoover was put in charge. The first crisis that hit, the stock market crash, he just kind of made worse and worse and worse until it turned into a depression. Which decisions were the bad ones, I'll leave it up to the political experts. But needless to say, Miyamoto strikes me as that type of guy. He wants to kind of be in charge of everything. He kind of wants to be creative. He wants to be in the thick of things. You can't be that way and be CEO. You can occasionally roll up your sleeves and help someone out on a project if you have time. But the CEO's kind of got to be a commander. He's got to pass out things to his underlings and then let them deal with each individual project. He can't micromanage, especially with a company as large as Nintendo. It will end in disaster. So they picked a guy named Tatsumi Kimishima. I probably botched that name. I'll probably get better pronouncing it as his name is mentioned more and more. According to his profile, he's definitely not a gamer like Iwata, which means he's going to be more handling the financial parts, which is what a CEO does. As long as he still allows people like Miyamoto to have some reign, I don't think Nintendo's going to be into anything big. In fact, looking at his record, he's been all over the place at Nintendo. He's been in charge of the Pokemon Company. He's even been in charge of Nintendo of America, and he was kind of Reggie's boss back when Reggie was the marketing director, so he's got some experience with Americans, and I think that's good. One of the problems that has been creeping up in the game industry when it comes to Japanese game companies is there's been a disconnect with the American audience that frustrates most of us Americans, between the fighting between YouTubers and some of their higher ups, and then just some of the games they release just not making sense. You know, we want this franchise here in America because it does well, and they just ultimately can it overseas. Mega Man being a good example of this. So this guy has some history with the American part of the company. I can only see that as being good. He also seems to be, like I said, knowledgeable about different areas of the company. That's good. And like I said, he's a financial guy. That might mean some of the creativity stops, but when you're dealing with things like the expensive second screen on that Wii U gamepad, which is what sunk the Wii U, folks, I can't help but wonder what would have happened if Nintendo released the Wii U, released it with a hard disk drive, released it with about the same amount of high definition graphics, and it threw in the motion controls from the Wii, but then threw in just a regular conventional gaming controller and kind of saying, we at Nintendo are still going to be making those motion control games. You know, Zelda Skyward Sword was just the tip of the iceberg. And then they threw in a conventional gaming controller so you can't have your Assassin's Creed and your Batman and priced it at $200. What would the Wii U be selling? And I can't help but think, yeah, it still would be outsold by the PS4 and Xbox One. But I think it would be doing better than its paltry 10 million units that it's sold so far. So hopefully we'll get someone who can still have, like I said, that creative edge. Miyamoto's still a higher up in the company. He's been named Creative Fellow, so hopefully that means he's still able to create some of these projects. But hopefully we'll see Nintendo rope in some of their crazier, more expensive ideas, because we can't have another Wii U gamepad disaster. And some of the specs that came out for the NXE this week also has me concerned, because it looks like it's another Wii U gamepad, and it looks like Nintendo might not have learned their lesson. Speaking about Nintendo, one last gripe before I finish this. It looks like Star Fox 64 has been pushed back past the holidays. That means no Zelda, no Star Fox, nothing. I really hope Super Mario Creator gets some good levels. I haven't picked that one up yet. I might later, but it doesn't look like Nintendo has anything this holiday season, and that's already going to hurt a Wii U game console that's not selling very well. Definitely bad news for them. Anyways, thank you for listening to this ramble. This is Tommy the Keyblade Master signing out. But before you go, please click on the subscribe button. I do reviews here. I do editorial audio logs like this. And I also publish once a week just my thoughts on some digital game sales, as well as what games you should be looking at to pick up digitally each week. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. This is Tommy the Keyblade Master signing out.